Hello, and welcome to this overview of the Phoenix Club historical romance book series by Darcy Burke. I'm Olivia, your new favorite resource for book recommendations you can easily screen grab, and you're watching Random Olive Reads. So let's take a little bit of this series overview here. The Phoenix Club series by Darcy Burke was published between 2021 and 2023. There are 7 books in the series, plus one little prequel novella centering around a very exclusive club in London. The premise here is set up in the prequel novella, which I'll go over next, but each book leads into the next one, so I do recommend reading these in order. So, Invitation is the prequel, and you can get it for free from the author's newsletter. It's not available on any other booksellers right now. We meet sort of the key players of the club in this book. It's really tiny, and there's no romance or anything happening in it. Mostly, we have Lucian and Mirabelle, who have a protector slash courtesan relationship until Mirabelle decides to give up the world's oldest profession. Now, Lucian decides to open a club where the overlooked are welcome and invited to this club. Lucian's friends are part of the initial group that formed the membership committee, and we'll get to see them throughout the series. Another key player here is Tobias, who was heartbroken and jilted, and he's decided to turn his life around and become actually a rogue and a rake. His book's actually first in the series. Book one is Improper. So Tobias has just inherited a marriage aged ward, Fiona, plus a stipulation in his father's will that he needs to marry within 6 months to retain ownership of his mother's house. So, with a massive to do list like cleaning up his own reputation, finding himself a wife, finding a suitor for his ward, we set off on this book. Fiona, of course, is resistant to marriage right away and wants to experience the social season because I guess she was isolated wherever it was that she came from. And in the process, she befriends Cassandra, who is Lucian's younger sister, and has a new companion, Prudence, who is more like a friend than anything. So these three young women kind of have a rebellious spirit, and they sort of see this exclusive club and try to sneak in and learn more about it. And at some point, Fiona finds herself in a scandalous position with Tobias. Now, why it wasn't obvious from the start that he should just marry Fiona for himself, I'm not quite sure. He needs a wife, and he also needs to find a husband for her. So, I mean, the math, right? But it all works out. And towards the end of the book, we do cross paths with Lucian's older brother at some point, too. Book two is Impassioned, and we have Constantine, who is an earl and an heir to a duke, and Lucian's older brother. He and his wife Sabrina have a pretty polite arranged marriage where they mostly live separately because Sabrina is shy and socially anxious, and so she stays at their country home while he does his parliamentary business in London, and they see each other maybe twice a year, and things are always awkward and stilted. Now, after 2 years of this very strained marriage, Sabrina decides she wants children and demands it of Constantine. Both these people are terrible at communicating with each other and with everyone else. So they each kind of separately end up enlisting the help of younger brother Lucian and club manager Evie to gain some skills in seduction. Now, Evie is actually Mirabelle from the prequel. So she's given up her life as a courtesan and kind of reinvented herself as a widow who runs the Phoenix Club. So we have Lucian and Constantine are brothers. Evie's just the club manager, and she and Lucian are friends. You'll start to see the worlds interconnect throughout the series. So we have lots of potential for drama here because Sabrina meets Constantine in disguise for his seduction lessons, and he doesn't know that it's her, but he feels totally guilty because he doesn't want to cheat on his wife, but he wants to learn how to please her. It's a whole big thing, and there's a lot of angst, and at some point these two dummies just have to talk to each other. We also get hints of the kind of strained relationship that Lucian and Constantine have had with each other, mostly because their father showed like blatant favoritism towards Constantine, who is the heir, and is always disparaging towards Lucian. And so these siblings, while in the past they had a bad relationship, they kind of grow closer over the course of this book. We move on to the younger sister of Lucian and Constantine here in Intolerable, which is book 3. So Cassandra is out on the marriage mart this season, and her father, the Duke, the overbearing, strict one, has insisted that she get married this year. However, she cannot stop thinking about the secret kisses that she shared with Lucian's friend Rourke, who is the Earl of Wexford. So Rourke has been an earl for quite some time. He tends to kind of fall in love easily, but he's never sure if it's a lifelong sort of love because he does it so easily. He made a deathbed promise to his father to not marry until he was at least 30 so that he can be sure of his choice. At this point in the story, he's not 30 yet. So in his mind, he's not quite eligible to propose to Cassandra, even though he can't seem to stay away from her. And she does actually need to pick a husband or suitor this season anyway. So we just get to read about their interactions until he finally like wises up or potentially loses her to another suitor. So this one is a lot of fun. Book 4 is Indecent, and Prudence, who is actually Cassandra's companion, accidentally gets kidnapped by Bennett, who is a viscount, because he really just wanted to force an elopement with Cassandra, who is a duke's daughter and has lots of money, so that Bennett could kind of claim the dowry money. So Bennett, you would think a kidnapper is like evil, but no, he's just super apologetic and very sweet, and he needs the money very badly to support his many aunts who are mentally ill. So with the weather, Prue and Bennett get stranded at an inn, and this poor guy just like can't catch a break. His carriage gets destroyed in the storm. They're stuck together. They start a friendship, and they kind of have like a one night thing. But he needs to marry money, and Prudence doesn't have any money. She's just a lady's companion. She doesn't come from money. She doesn't have a family, etc. She even has her own personal mission to find her birth mother because when the woman who raised her, who she thought was her mother, passed away, they like kind of revealed that Prudence was adopted. Overall, this one was one of my favorites of the series, mostly because you would think a kidnapper would be some sort of like rake or scoundrel, but no, he's just a poor, bumbling, nice guy who wants to take care of his family. Throughout this book, we do actually find out who Prudence's birth family is and how that's connected to the rest of the Phoenix Club characters. Impossible is book 5 of the series, and now we have a hermit viscount named Max who has been sent assistance with his bookkeeping. So Max had served in a war with Lucian, so that's kind of how they're connected and they're friends, even though Max is a hermit now and doesn't talk to anybody. And Ada is the bookkeeper at the Phoenix Club, who is also friends with Prudence from the previous book. So Ada is cheerful and helpful and kind of slowly breaks Max out of his shell. He is suffering from both emotional and physical traumas from his time in the war and dealing with the fallout of his father and older brother dying because he wasn't really meant to be the Viscount. Um, Plus, he found out that his father was unfaithful and he has a half sister that he never knew about. So Ada tries really hard to resist Max because she doesn't want to like fall prey or victim to romantic notions. They both need to kind of learn to cope with their past fears and eventually come together. But this one doesn't take place in London and it doesn't take place at the club at all. It is mostly at Max's estate until the that couple weeks is over when she's done helping him with his um estate stuff and she goes back to town. Book 6 of the series is Irresistible. Um, Not much of this story takes place at the Phoenix Club either. Now, Dougal is one of the co-owners of the club or co kind of runners of the club and Lucian's friend. And Jess is a new character on the scene. So Dougal is reluctant to give up his work with the Foreign Office as like a spy, but he needs to fulfill his duties now that his older brother has died. So now he's a viscount, his father's an earl. On sort of one last mission, he is teamed up with newbie Jess, who was recruited for her deciphering skills. So Dougal and Jess need to play a husband and wife to visit another kind of eccentric couple to see if they're actually French spies. So while playing the domestic and loving couple, they each realize how comfortable it is to be in that setting with each other. This one's not too angsty, and the couple they're investigating is a lot of fun. So this is the first book where we start to see like, hey, is there some like spy stuff happening in this series? Because up till this point, it was just kind of low stakes, falling in love, normal, not horribly dangerous situations. But this one, now they're like spying on people, etc. Book 7 of the series is Impeccable. Now, if you've read all of the books in the series, including the prequel, you'll know that Mrs. Evangeline Renshaw is a fake identity for the Phoenix Club manager and patroness, and she was previously a very sought after courtesan named Mirabelle. So when she ended her liaison with the son of the Duke, Lucian, he asked her to help manage his new club. And so she's been living under her assumed identity of a respectable widow ever since. When she visits her sister, who she can't actually publicly claim as her sister because the sister was also previously a courtesan, she rescues a puppy and befriends the younger brother of the Marquess next door. Gregory's pretty honest and open, and he says he wants to court her, but she doesn't want marriage, so he proposes an affair instead. It's like, well, I'll take you however I can get you. This guy is like the absolute sunshiniest fellow ever, and probably a bit too good to be true. The bond over the puppy that they find is absolutely adorable. And of course, at some point, as all good dramas will have, Evie's history and reputation are soon to be at risk. We have some background drama with Gregory's very unpleasant older brother and some of the other people at the Phoenix Club, mostly bickering and arguing about like who is eligible to get in or not, and why can't we like buy our way in, and why don't we like have any favors and things like that. So it kind of all blows up at the end of this book. So the last and final book is Insatiable. And so we finally get to see our meddlesome club owner Lucian meet his match. With the scandal and drama that closed out the end of book 7, Lucian's actually at risk of losing the club from the intervention of the anonymous patrons from the Foreign Office. So apparently, the club has been used as like a front for spies to be able to meet or spies to be able to observe other people. It seems like there's even more danger behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Rourke's younger sister, Kat, has decided that this is the season she'll dedicate more research to the mating habits of people. Kat is bookish and socially awkward, gets overwhelmed by crowds easily, but somehow she's comfortable and attracted to Lucian. She asks him for assistance in her research, and he can only resist for so long because he finds her honesty and directness attractive as well. I think this book was a really great ending to this whole series, and it's fun to see like how the characters interconnect. Lucian's younger sister is married to Kat's older brother, so we have the same like best friend sibling thing going on. Um, so it's really interesting how they all tie together. So overall thoughts, this was a really well-connected series that was fun to read. I read these books as they were coming out, so sometimes the details were a little fuzzy, like, wait, who is that person? How are they related? There's so many people here. I think these would be a fun binge read because the events of one book flow really nicely into the events of the next one. And when you think about the tropes kind of back to back, they're not too similar to each other, so you don't feel like it's repetitive. The last book has a really nice epilogue that kind of features all the couples throughout the series and how they're all doing. So, highly recommend the series. I had a lot of fun reading it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Links to all of these books are in the description box below. Like and subscribe so you don't miss future videos, and you can follow me on Instagram at randomolive.